Welcome back to VISTA to Onyx. I'm David from Learn Stage Lighting, and here we're going to teach you how to use Onyx if you're a VISTA user. So, in this video, it's all about storing and working through presets. And the beautiful thing about presets from VISTA to Onyx is they're the same thing. This is going to be the case in most lighting consoles. Essentially, a preset is a building block to make cues out of. It can contain all your fixtures. It can contain some of your fixtures. And when you apply it, you can apply it to some or all of the fixtures that are recorded into it. Also, when you update a preset, this is the biggest one, every cue that you built off of that preset is going to be updated. So that's like the biggest thing about presets. If you're coming from VISTA, if you've used presets before, you know all of that. And so let's talk about Onyx and why and how to use presets and a couple differences between VISTA and Onyx. So by default, Onyx puts presets in the presets window. This is a big version of it, and presets are sorted by intensity, pan tilt, color, gobo, beam effects, and framing. By the way, if you just caught that ninja move there, that's the tab key in Onyx. Whenever you click in a window, you can tab through the tabs in the bottom with tab on a PC. In my VISTA view here, I've also created a small section right here where I can get to a handful of presets of each type. Okay. Now, in VISTA, presets by default contain like all of the different parameters that you have. In Onyx, that's not the case, but we can actually make it work that way, so you can do it either way. Building a preset is real simple. We'll just take all the lights, and let's say we're here in intensity. We go ahead and bring it to full, okay? And now I'm just going to bring up a color too, just to show you how these work, and why not focus them? I'll click in my visualizer to focus, and we focus those lights to a new position. Okay. So now is where the fun happens. Recording a preset is just as simple as pressing record either on our console or on this on-screen keyboard. We're here in color right now, and we could build a color preset, okay? We could also go in here and store a position preset. We could also go in here and store a intensity preset all the same way, okay? Now the difference between these three is that if we select our lights, or maybe just some of our lights for fun, and we put them in the color preset. In this case, they've only changed color, okay? We can do our pan tilt and they move, and we do our intensity and they turn on. So like VISTA, we can sort and filter them into groups based on the type of parameters that are in those presets. But unlike VISTA, by default, that's the way it works. Okay, if you want to override it and make a preset that has everything in it, in this case, I'll just hit record, and I'm going to grab intensity, pan, tilt, and color. I'm going to put this in my framing presets because I'm not using framing right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and record. Now, we get a pop-up here about embedded presets. Okay, embedded presets means that this preset was built from other presets, and we can either use that. And so if the origin preset, like the three that I built this from, are adjusted or updated later, then this preset would also be updated, or we can break, which is what I'm going to do here, and have this preset stand on its own. Now we see with this preset that it says IPC, intensity, position, and color. That's what we've stored to it. So then, if I select my lights, or at least the 8 that I stored into it, and then, whoops, back to framing, hit that preset, we get all of them together, all played right in. Now, unlike VISTA, Onyx does not have global presets, and that is one thing it doesn't do. But it's just as easy, and it really only takes a minute or two more to just grab all of your fixtures, put them into a preset, and go with it from there, okay? Now, you can also, similar to VISTA, is you can apply presets on empty, and it's actually an option here from the cog in the corner of the presets window called apply on empty right here. And what that means is basically if we don't select fixtures and we hit the preset, that preset is still selected and it's still brought into our programmer for us to be able to work with. And then maybe we go ahead and maybe we store it, right, and we put it in a queue. Give it a name, and then voila, it plays back exactly what we had. So there are a number of ways to work with presets, but essentially it's all kind of the same thing as you're really used to. Whether we're clicking a preset, which is not my normal way of working, but totally works, whether we're just selecting a preset to make it live. I'll have to stop this cue for that to work, right? So whether we selected that preset to make it live manually, whether we went ahead and selected just some of our lights and placed them in a preset or multiple presets, it doesn't matter. It's still going to give us the same outcome of putting that light or those lights and those parameters into our programmer to get them ready to record or update or what have you. Now let's talk about that updating thing. When it comes to updating presets, there's going to be a few ways to get this done. One is we can simply go and change something about the lights, right? So here I just change the color of these 4 lights. I could hit record and I could hit this preset. Now we have some options of merge, replace, or edit command, or also cancel. Merge is going to add anything new to that preset. So in this case, it's overwriting color for these 4 fixtures. Replace is what it sounds like. It's going to wipe out everything that's in there, replace it with the current data, but still update the cues that use the preset. You can use that. I'm going to hit cancel right now because we can also use the update key. And if there are cues running that used this preset, we would actually be able to update it here by selecting those, deselecting the cues, and then pressing enter. So that's another way to get things done with updating presets. When it comes to it, presets, as noted, can be filtered, and we did discuss that by default they're going to filter by type, but we can override that, not a problem. And Onyx includes embedded presets just like VISTA. So if you're used to going and, say you take a couple lights, and I'm going to use the Capture 3D Visualizer here to help, and let's say we'll just highlight them. Let's say I make a preset here for my band, right? So I make a keys player preset. And then I take everybody else and point it at the lead singer. Actually, I need to clear that keys one out first. Apologize. And then I go ahead, I clear that all out. I select all of these lights and I do my lead singer and I do my keys preset. And I build a third preset and this time leave it embedded. So we'll call this use embedded references. Then I just type after I record them. Sorry if I didn't note that. And I call this band. So type and enter, saves it. My little E here in the corner tells me that it's embedded. And so now, if I do go, grab my keys fixtures, send them over there, record right over that preset, merge. I usually merge, though this was technically a replace. And then I go ahead, bring up my band preset. Now the fixtures are not selected, but they did move, and we see it updated that embedded preset just as expected. Nice and easy. In terms of storing things to preset, in VISTA you had the ability to store things kind of as a combination from cues and from the programmer itself. In Onyx, you can essentially do the same thing, it's just a hair different. So if we have a cue playing, for example, and we also have some lights in the programmer, say we just take these ones, we bring them to full, and we make them a color. Maybe we make them red, and then we load fixture 101 through 110. Perfect. And then we store all that to a color preset. Now, I don't normally do color presets with multiple colors in them, but for the sake of this example, we'll do it. In this case, I'm just going to break my embedded references. And now what we've done is we've essentially built a preset. If I press on it, actually, we'll see it here. Color 3 here. We see here now that we put the fixtures in color 3, okay, and it's good to go. We've stored that up. The biggest key is just going ahead and, I'm not sure, let me just double check and make sure it loaded correctly. Yep, that's got the pinkish in it. But did that get the blue? Yes, it did. So yeah, both colors are in that preset. It's good to go. The biggest thing is that you can't really go from a cue straight to a preset because in Onyx, anything you're going to record to a preset has got to hit the programmer first. And so the the way that it works is it's not even a workaround or anything like that. It's just simply that you're going ahead and you're loading it into the programmer, just like we've done other times in these tutorials, and then you're saving it into the queue, but it's not really any different. Before we leave, we do want to talk about the highlight, lowlight, and home presets. Now, if you're on an Onyx system and you're below version 4.9, it's going to work differently than in this video. This is for version 4.9 and above, which as we go into the future will be what most people are using. If I want to edit what the lights do when I either highlight them or take them home, I can do that easily. First, let's explain the difference between these. The home preset is the first. It's what happens when I stop all of the cues in the console. Okay, all the cues stop, there's nothing in the programmer, the fixtures go to home. By default, or rather they go to default, sorry, I was using a VISTA term. They go to default as their home. By default, that default position is going to be, 50% pan and tilt, so straight up or straight down, depending if it's hanging or on the ground. It's going to be no color, no gobo, and it's going to be off, right? But there are advantages to adjusting this preset. In fact, I say if you're going to be in a space where you're using the same thing a lot, or you're on a show and you just want to be able to clear everything with snap and release buttons on Onyx and still be somewhere, then I do recommend storing a default preset. And honestly, I use it a lot on shows and events that I work on. So the default preset can have anything you want in it. It can have lights turned on, turned off, in positions, colors, etc. Highlight and low light are what happens when you use the highlight function. So this is highlight. Those lights are highlighted, but if I hit next, only one of them is, and the rest are in the low light preset. So let's look at how we update all of these. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to go ahead and just play our cue back. All right, I'm going to scroll down, and I'm not seeing the window, so I'm just going to unlock and edit, right-click there, or hold edit on your console, hit the screen. Then we want to go ahead and edit function, choose a window, and in this case, I am looking for a window called default. Perfect. And there's also a window called highlight, and there's now also one called offset, which does some cool stuff too. Okay. If we go here into the default one, and there's a pop-up that has all three of them, I think. All we do now is press edit, and then everything glows orange here at the bottom, which shows us that we're now editing our default preset. Now, if I go back into my main view, we're going to turn off highlight, and we select these fixtures. We could, by default, put them in this position just by going to pan tilt, right-clicking and pressing load either over here on the whole parameter group or on these individual parameters. No, I apologize, only on the individual parameters. This is new. They changed it. Now, I can go ahead, back to my default, unclick edit, clear, and if we clear and stop all cues, we now see that we have stored this with those lights in that position. So I don't know if you can see it well on the visualizer, but they're still in the same position they were in before. They've stored in that position, and so if I bring them up or put them in a queue that brings them up, they don't move into place and then come up. They're already in that default position. Okay, highlight and low light storing is exactly the same process. So literally going here to highlight, and then here at the bottom, we have different ones. We have the default, we have different ones that we can save, and if we do use one that we want to save, we can press edit, we can bring in these cues. So let's just say we go ahead and bring in all fixtures from the default. We have highlight and low light here, and we're able to just click edit here, load things in just like we just did with the default, and they save into our highlight or low light palette. I do recommend using a highlight and low light palette, especially low light can help a lot just to do like a yellow and blue or a white and blue or something like that. So it's a little easier to see what you have in your entire selection versus what you're working with currently. Other than that, it's really pretty simple. And in our next video, we're going to talk about recording and building cues, storing things, etc. We'll see you there. Thanks.